We're watching Tenet. This is what
do we
we're
think?
excited for.
I'm excited to be extremely confused, and I want it to be entrancing.
That's what's up. I'm excited that it's going to be more spy movie type shit.
Spy.
You know, I hope that they really lean into the action. And
What do you
do
think,
something
Kerrigan?
epic.
I'm excited.
She's excited.
I just broke my keychain. My pocket.
That's what you get. That's bad luck, bro.
Yep.
So he's gonna suck.
It's not my fault!
This one goes out to M, who couldn't join us.
Because he died. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Guy Excellent Podcast.
We're in
We're your
an
hosts.
ASMR podcast now.
You can barely fucking hear us. All right,
Today,
we're gonna talk
we're
about
doing
Tenet.
something.
First. Wait.
What are you
What
doing?
are you
Get
gotta
off your
We
phone.
gotta do the joke first.
Oh,
it's freaking
yeah.
tradition.
Yep. 2
Um,
plans this time.
Joke.
I guess.
Joke.
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 Hurry up.
Joke.
Tell a joke. You gonna tell a
It's
joke?
right on your
What's the
screen.
joke?
I'd
Side.
like to find
Tell
a
a joke.
good one. Okay.
You should have
Side.
I'm
thought
a
about
man.
that beforehand.
Funny.
I'm gonna hit you.
Just wait. Like
You have
2
8 seconds.
Okay. Okay, why do we tell actors to break a leg?
I don't know why.
Why?
Because every play has a cast.
Ooh, that one was.
That was funny.
Okay. That's good luck.
Right.
We can start the podcast.
Fucked up the microphone.
Nice.
Great.
I think it worked.
We're back. I'll do some movie magic to that. Make it
Great,
flow well.
we're back.
We're back.
All right. So, how you been?
Good. How about you?
I'm good. Tell us about your new girlfriend, Aiden.
I don't have a new girlfriend.
Yeah, you do.
No, I don't.
Aiden has a girlfriend. He won't talk about
no,
it.
I don't.
But I'm trying to get
I
out of
wish.
it. Just
No,
tell me.
I don't.
That's a good segue. If anybody wants to date Aiden, now's your time. You know, I know that we've had a connection, but I think it's time to give you a rest so you can go off to find new people.
Thanks.
It's limited edition, very exclusive.
Limited edition. Aiden.
Well,
So,
what
today-
movie did we all watch, boys?
I can't remember.
Maybe we should go back in time and find out.
Time!
Time.
Time it. Did you unplug again?
Time
Okay,
it.
good. Sweet.
Tenet.
Tenet.
Saw Tenet.
We watched it.
And don't worry, no spoilers, not yet.
I'll tell you when.
Yeah. So you're gonna physically give them the spoilers.
let's do a little just thoughts, no spoilers.
Yeah.
Thoughts about your opinion on the movie, Aiden.
I really enjoyed it. I was telling Max and Truman. I think of the I can't
Christopher
remember.
Nolan?
Yeah, the Christopher Nolan movies I've seen, which I'm pretty sure are all of them.
You've seen all of them?
No,
Most of them.
most of them.
Great.
Yeah. I think I don't.
I don't get it.
Because
Where's the opinion part?
I liked it.
Okay. Great. Is that your opinion?
Yeah.
That's all you got?
Yep.
All right. Movie. Going into it was very excited. A very hyped movie in not usually ways that movies are hyped. Like, I'm usually hyped about movies like superhero movies or Star Wars movies or movies that I'm interested in, but the sole factor in this movie's hype was purely Christopher Nolan, and like he's gonna make a good movie. So going into the movie, I was excited, and then watching the movie, it was definitely a thing of like exactly what I expected, being perfectly confused but also satisfied with the movie, but in kind of a state of, I know that I'm not getting it, but you could tell that when you do get it, or like when it does click, it's gonna be great. And so I think it's a thing of having to watch it multiple times to understand the more puzzling aspect of the movie, but around it is like a really fun, cool spy movie that I think is like could stand alone by itself, because it's just cool. Like, it's really awesome to see these characters do things that you love to see characters do on screen. Like just beat up people, like
In reverse.
yeah, and drive boats and stuff, and you're all like, dang, that's cool.
We'll take mine.
Yeah, but that's my opinion. Great movie, great premise and idea, and great execution, and fun. I think it's just a really fun movie.
Yeah. I agree with Truman on every point. I think that it's one of those movies where, the hype was not necessarily in that, like, I knew characters and I knew what the end goal was supposed to be, and I wanted to see if they could achieve that, or what would happen along the way to them achieving that. It was truly that I didn't know anything about what was going on, and I had no idea what to expect, and it was the idea of knowing that I will get to learn what makes this movie so cool and what makes it tick that made me so hyped for it, and yeah, I think I had a similar experience in that. Yeah, me and Truman have now watched it 3 times.
Yep.
Aiden has seen it once, and Emerson saw it once, and it was one of those things. Again, no spoilers. Where the first time I watched it, it was great, but right when shit like kind of started really popping off and got to like the third act, it was in this weird kind of limbo state of I was paying the fuck attention because it was gripping, and everything cinematically was telling me that it was important. I just had no fucking clue what was going on because I missed vital details, because I was just not paying good enough attention to what was significant, because it just gives you so much information. And so that's what made the second viewing, I think, like, tip top, one of the best experiences watching a movie ever, in my opinion, because just the idea of getting to put shit together and then afterwards discussing it and putting together different details, and not just in like a logistical like what happened to this person and where were they sense, but a like what is the like philosophy and the meaning behind certain ideas in the movie, and what sort of overall scientific ideas is it drawing upon it, and that it just, there's nothing more satisfying than a movie that makes you feel like a fucking genius, because that's what it does. On that second viewing, I was like, I am fucking galaxy brain, bro.
Yeah,
I am
definitely,
so smart.
It's one of those where like you'll watch it, and then if you go with somebody, you'll end up talking about it, just taking like, what do you know and what am I missing and what do I know that you're missing, and so that you can all kind of like collectively understand what's happening. And when you do figure it out, definitely on that second viewing, it was like, it was so good. It was awesome. Yeah.
And it's definitely that, I think, communal experience that makes this movie. I think it would honestly, it'd be one thing if you went and you watched it on your own and then like watched some YouTube videos or whatever. It would still be entertaining, and it would still be, I think, satisfactory to figure things out. But it's even cooler when you and your friends are getting hyped up over it. Yeah. And then you say something and you're like, but that doesn't really, and then your friend goes, actually, I think this is, and you go, oh shit.
That makes sense.
That makes sense. Yeah. That's epic. Yeah. And like after that second viewing, when I was going home, we watched it with Sage and Max Brabson, and by that point we had it like almost entirely figured out, or at least I had it mostly entirely figured out. But there was one question that Max asked that got us all, and we didn't know what the answer to this question was logistically in the movie, and so I was just thinking about it while I was driving home. thinking so hard, and I have a pretty long drive home, so I pulled over 3 times, right? I was thinking about it super hard, and then I pulled over because I wanted to get it down, right? So I texted Truman. where my thoughts were going, and then I realized, I don't quite know what I'm getting at here. I haven't reached the answer to this, but I got a step further.
Yeah.
And I kept driving. I kept thinking about it, talking to myself out loud. Then I got to the second stop where it's like, okay, I figured it out.
Yeah.
I stop. I start texting. I go, I don't think I did figure it out, but I got more details. And then that third time, it was just as I was gonna go into the canyon, and I lost service. It was like, I need to, like, I sat there and I thought about it, and then I was like, okay, I figured it out. I thought about it from a different perspective. I thought about, like, the logistics behind it, and I thought through a bunch of time forward and backwards and all of this shit just to try and figure out what the fuck was going on. And it was so satisfactory to just sit down, and I got so hyped typing it out and sending it to Truman, fucking hitting send, and then sending a GIF just to show that I'm a fucking genius. I was like, yeah, that's what's up.
It's a good time.
Yeah.
But that's all the non-spoiler we have, because it's definitely a movie that, like, needs to be discussed fully.
Yeah.
So if you haven't watched the movie and you don't want to go into it not knowing what's happening, you want to go into it not knowing what's happening, then stop.
Yeah,
then
stop
fast
here.
Forward to...
Yeah, if we talk about something else, then I'll put it in the timestamp.
But
yeah,
the movie,
I'm gonna read it.
as, like, the concept, an idea of how, like, manipulating time in this way, which I think is really interesting, because I think what happens is, the biggest thing for me was watching it the first time. I was focusing on trying to understand what was happening through a traditional, like, time travel through movies sense.
Yeah.
Of, like, and you can't think of it that way. Like, you can't think of it like Back to the Future, where, like, he's disappearing slowly because he never exists, you know?
Yeah.
But it's something where you watch it and you have to, like, completely change your new way of thinking to this idea of pretty much what we figured out is everything is set in stone.
Yes.
Like, time, everything that has happened will happen.
Yeah.
And when you go back, you really can't change anything.
Yeah.
Like, because if you did it, you've already done it, which means that whatever happens. But also, at the end of the movie, the whole point is that when Neil, they have this conversation of, like, he pretty much says, even if we can't control what's happened, what we're doing, it's not an excuse to not do anything, right?
Yeah.
And so it's a thing of, you can't, whatever happens will happen. Yeah. But that doesn't give you an excuse to not do what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Which I think is the best part.
It's definitely cool. I think that there was some name that one of the first YouTubers I watched gave this type of time travel, or this type of time manipulation, and he called it like fixed point or something.
Right.
And it's like, that is the idea that no matter what's going to happen is going to happen. You cannot manipulate things. You cannot change it, whether you're moving forward or backward. And that's something we didn't talk about, is, like, I didn't necessarily know what the idea of inversion even was in the first place. The movie does a good job of explaining that, so you can move to new details. And it's the idea that, like, you put something through a turnstile, and then it starts moving backwards in time. Yeah. Backwards in time on its own track, on its own thing. I think that's cool as fuck. And
that's great.
I think that's just...
I think it definitely is, like, it takes a while to adjust to what Christopher Nolan presents. Like, it's hard to take everything you've learned about time travel and how it works, and then have to rethink it in a different way.
Yeah, and I think, like, the idea is, like, it's not even, like maybe it was, I don't remember the character, but they're literally, like, one of the lines is, like, it's not time travel. You know, like, this idea, like...
Probably Neil.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
It's not time travel.
But, like, the idea that, like, that you kind of have to do have to get, like, adjusted to, like, okay, they're moving, like, backwards, but they're not physically, like, going back in time. They still exist, like...
It's not like, that they're going... The idea is it's less about, like... The confusing part is, in most time travel movies, it's like... And then they're back in time. Yeah. But they're still going forward. This is something that we've never seen before, which is... We are traveling back in time the same speed that
You would
the
travel.
people are
Yeah.
traveling forward in
yeah.
time.
An important
so-
thing to think about is not that it's not like you come out of the turnstile and you, from your perspective, for fucking moving backwards. It's that
Right.
from your perspective, you're moving forwards. It's simply that now the timeline
else.
is moving the other direction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think before we go into like the questions that you have,
Yeah.
we should go through like watching it the first time. What was your biggest question, and like what was the thing that confused you the most? Except for Aiden.
Yeah.
Aiden, you see, is a bona fide genius, and he watched the movie once, and we come out expecting him to be like, "Whoa, how does this work?" And then Max and I were gonna be like, "Well, it's time, But this kid is all, "No, I get it."
Yeah, he really did,
He
and
did.
he
He got
did
it.
pick up on every detail.
I'm like,
it was,
well,
it was
great.
interesting, and that just happens sometimes. You might,
Sometimes,
yeah.
sometimes you're a genius, and it's okay.
Sometimes you're not, but
But sometimes you
But
are.
sometimes you are.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I'd say my biggest thing coming out of the first viewing was I pretty much understood everything except for the end, the idea that the opera was happening on the same day as the boat thing that's happening, and the thing of there are two different versions of characters. Like it's specifically in that scenario, it's Satyr. There's the future version of him, and then there's the present version of him.
Yeah.
It's the same thing for the wife. There's the future, and then the
Cat.
the present cat. Yeah.
and even we don't ever see it, but even the protagonist then too.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, they
Mhm.
all. But
Yeah.
the confusion was in that scene, in that scenario, the wife, cat, kills Satyr, and then in that moment, she is now, which we know at the end of the film, becomes the mother of this child.
Yeah.
And my first question was, how does she become the mother when there's already a mother, like from the
There's the
past,
other
that's
version of
raising
her.
the child?
Yeah.
And I'm like, how? Like, does she just off herself and then
Right.
take the child?
Right.
Like, what happens?
But then you pick up on the detail that
right,
it's
and that was the
yeah.
first. That was the first thing that I was confused about, and it took the second viewing and talking after
right.
to understand that it's pretty much like all of it moves in loops.
Yes.
Like it's like a loop, and then if you go around, you shoot out the other side.
Yeah.
So it's like you go and you go back in time, and then that version of you is going to go back in time. and it's gonna
That
leave
version of you is up here too, so no matter what, you're not gonna be.
Well, the idea, and the idea is when you go back in time, the version of you that has already gone back in time is going to go forward
Yeah.
into time because
Right.
they're going to take your place.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which when I figured that out, and pretty much how all of it works, where you can go back in time and go forward in time to the place where you went back in time, so that you can now live out what you can go forward in time, pretty much.
Yeah. Whenever you go backwards, you're essentially creating two versions of yourself, because the further that you go back, the further you're going to see the other version of you moving back with you. So by the time you eventually start moving forward again, there's going to be three versions of you. So
Yeah.
it's always going to be catching up through this gerbil tube
Yep.
upward. Yeah. And I think that I got lost way before you did, and I got lost on more details before you did.
Yeah.
I missed, I think, the significance of the algorithm and the fact that the
Oh, for
algorithm
sure,
was
yeah.
not a bomb. That's not a big thing. That's not like
We-
timeline confusing, but I didn't understand like why that's happening or what's significant about that.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because they do talk about it being a bomb.
Yeah.
Like they talk about whatever it is, plutonium
Yeah.
247 or whatever, as like a bomb, but really it's just a part of a
Yeah.
algorithm.
And I believe there is still plutonium in
Yeah,
part of it,
it
but
is,
it's
right.
not like it's not a literal bomb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that definitely was confusing.
But
and
yeah, where I think I specifically got lost was just before the big third act, when I got all the premise and all the setup that Satyr, if he dies, his wristwatch goes off and it buries the thing, sending it to the future, meaning, or it buries the thing doing something. It makes a bomb blow up. I didn't understand that it, like, what it was. I knew that if he died and they didn't figure some shit out, that it was Bad News Bears. Yeah,
well, I always thought that it would just explode. The world would explode.
Right, yeah, I thought, yeah, but, and so I think that, in that sort of climactic scene, I didn't register the fact that there were two versions of Seder, and one was at the opera house, and one was there on the boat, and that was the future version, and I just didn't quite pick up on why they needed to be there or what the significance was and all of that, and so by that point I just saw shit popping off, and it was really well filmed, and I felt the tensity of it. So when things happened, I understood their role. I understood that when Kat shot the dude, it was preemptive, and it was scary, and I was like, they need to figure their shit out, or else this isn't gonna work out.
Yeah.
And then it all happened. But yeah, it was on that. It was definitely. I watched a YouTube video after the first viewing. I watched a YouTube video. What I did to make sure I didn't quite get everything is I put it on and I listened to it on my drive home so that I got plot details that I missed before, but the timeline was still a miss to me, right? And so, yeah, I didn't understand that place at the climax of the movie was happening at the same time as the very beginning of the movie when he's in the opera house, and yeah, it was just so cool on the second viewing to feel awesome. That unravel, and
especially because there is something funny. I think, like, Christopher Nolan knows that he puts all the most important, like, plot points and parts in the middle of, like, random scenes. Or, like, you just barely don't understand what the person's saying. Like, I remember at the beginning when he is on the boat with the guy, when he's talking, that's pretty normal, like, but I remember specifically thinking, like, those like the water noises and like the sound of the boat was like
specifically
kind of
the
obnoxious.
one where they're doing the like crazy fucking.
Oh, and that's game changing. But at the beginning when he's just talking to like you assume another agent guy, and he's all Tenet, you know. But definitely it takes you for such a loop when he's all like, do you know how to drive boat? And he's all, yeah, sure. And he's all, meet me at dock 8 a.m. And you're like, okay.
Like,
and then all of a sudden,
what the fuck's going on?
you're just like on like a racing boat, and they're talking about really, really important things, and you can't understand any of it. And they're all,
Yep. And then it's just talking, and then he gets fucking thrown off the boat, and you're like, what the fuck is going on here?
It is truly like. I don't.
You know what caught me off guard the first time when the dude. This is at like the very beginning before it. Like I'm really even getting lost. Was when the dude says, "All I have for you is a phrase, and a word, Tenet." Because in the trailer he says, "All I have for you is a word, Tenet,"
but
and
he
says,
well. All I have for you is a gesture.
Gesture. Yeah. And it made it like as soon as I heard that I was like, "Oh, that doesn't." Because I thought he was gonna say, "All I have for you is a word." Tenet, and it's like that's a cool line, but then it's all I have for you is a gesture, and then he
paired with the phrase.
It's like whoa, yeah. And I think that was honestly one of the moments where I realized like, oh, the dialogue in this movie is fucking crazy. It's
awesome.
Fast and it's subtle
and it's
unforgiving. It's unfucking forgiving.
Yeah.
Even from the beginning when you're not necessarily learning any significant information, right? Like when John David Washington says, well, to do what I do, I need some idea of the threat we face. Yeah. It kind of comes out of nowhere,
right? Well,
it's
so cool because it's a spy movie.
Yeah.
And like you could tell that like you're almost like on the outside. Like they don't clue you in on anything really.
Yeah, and we have no really fucking clue really who John David Washington is. We know he's like a secret agent CIA guy, but we have nothing other than that. And like the fact that he doesn't freak out when they start saying it, we fuck with time. Like, shit starts moving backwards in time. He's like, okay, I'm on board. It's like, Jesus fucking Christ, bro.
Because, you know,
what else has he fucked with? Like,
you don't know what else has he done
that time doesn't phase him? Yeah.
But, anything you want to add in?
What are you going to say? You're going to say something.
No, I agree. I think if there was something, I don't know, I feel like I was able to hold on pretty well to the plot points, but I do service a lot of that to like the fact that like going in, Max and Truman were like, you got to watch every little detail. You got to like, and so I went in and I was like it's like in a movie when they're like no spoilers, but there's a twist, and it's like okay, well that's a spoiler because now I'm anticipating
of
the
course,
twist.
of course.
Yeah.
You know, it was like that where I was anticipating like,
Everything.
maybe this could be something. Maybe this
Exactly.
could be something.
Right.
And I like held on to a lot of that. So I think that was
Yeah.
a big thing why like I was able to piece together some stuff.
I'm too ADD for that, bro. I couldn't
Yeah,
even.
I was
Even
like,
when I was like
guns.
concentrating,
I was like, cool
there was
guns.
literally
Yeah.
there was a moment. I think it was in the scene where the protagonist is talking to the lady in the diner for the first time, and they're talking, and then there was a moment where I went, I didn't pay
I
attention to
missed
any
it,
of that
yeah.
because
Yeah.
I was
Well,
thinking about how attractive she was. I was thinking about how tall she was.
Yeah,
Just-
and when
yeah.
there are like moments where it's like really like just sensory overload, like whether
Yeah.
it's like the sound mixing, like the visuals, you're like literally like constantly you're just like what the heck,
the
like
music,
you're
for
freaking
sure.
out. The music for sure, it's like
Damn, the music is
it's
good.
it is really jarring, and that does service of like you're freaking getting mixed up everywhere, and you're like I don't know what's happening, and it's weird. And I was telling like Max afterwards, it really is a movie that's just like an experience, you know, like almost like I would almost say it's kind of like are we good?
Bruh.
Okay, it kind of reminded me just in the way like how it was like an experience movie was another Robert Pattinson was The Lighthouse, where for me that movie was just like an experience, like you go in and you just feel something, and very much so like that's what this was, where you go in and you just kind of like exist in this world while you're watching it,
Because it's so
and then you
tonally
come out of it
unique.
and you're like,
Yeah.
well, okay,
Yeah, I
and
think,
like
yeah.
yeah, and I loved it, and like the whole thing of like I do agree with what you said, where the whole the algorithm thing, because for a long time I was like, algorithm, I thought it was like this literal like idea. Yeah, exactly. And then kind of that moment where what's the bad guy's name? Seder, when you like see him and he's in the past and he's like, it is interesting because literally like his whole thing is like he finds this, you know, this time capsule with gold,
future.
you know,
Yeah.
with, and he's like, and it's literally just like, do this for us, you know, and I like the idea like he's the antagonist in the way of like he serves as a physical embodiment of like he's the bad guy, and he's like a bad guy constantly, like he does bad stuff, but also yeah, and that's I love that part. And but then there's also this idea of like there's these people in the future who are like you know, honestly, if we saw the movie from their perspective, I like the idea that if we saw the movie from the people in the future who are literally like
Dying.
like
No
yeah,
water.
like the like
Pollution.
It's like their last ditch effort, and they know that if they do it right, it's just gonna they're gonna have it, right? Because it's
Right.
gonna be
Yeah.
instantaneous for them. They're gonna
And the
open up
funny
the
thing
package
is
and
that
see the thing.
It would also be, they talk about like John David Washington, I think, talks about, well, they understand that like if they destroy us, they destroy themselves, and then I think Robert Pattinson is just kind of like, well,
Like
we don't
they
know.
don't give a
No
fuck.
one knows.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
don't know,
we don't
and
know,
like
and they
they're
don't care.
they're
Yeah.
they're gonna
desperate.
die anyways, so
Yeah,
it's like
Exactly.
you know,
And-
what do you do?
And it is something that like you can tell. That is something that I definitely got from the second viewing of like I understood, because that also confused me, because I thought when he opens up that thing, I thought it was like a barrel of plutonium that he was supposed to dig up and find in this town, and he was like, oh, I found it. But it was like, why is there a note with his name on it?
Right.
I was like, that doesn't make any sense. But then when I figured out that like, oh, they're sending him gold, like they're sending him money so that he's able to build a company
yeah.
and become
Have this
powerful.
empire.
Yeah, and become powerful enough to find these items, you know?
Yeah.
And I thought, well, like when I figured that out, I was like, really cool. And it changed. It became a thing of like the future versus, well, not really purely the future, but like the future group of people who wants to keep the algorithm going forward, and then Tenet and the other people who want to keep it going back in time.
Yeah, it's really
just like a race
Yeah.
and of pushing it back and forth and hiding it and people finding it and hiding it.
I think
so
I think it's kind of interesting from the perspective that it's like it's literally two organizations working from the future to fuck with the past to try and do whatever, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
one organization, which is the dudes giving it to Seder so that he can make his
So he can
empire,
bring it forward.
and
And
then
then
the
ultimately
Tenet
it is
organization,
Tenet, which
Yeah.
which operates
Right.
through the protagonist and
Right.
through Neil, but which I that is interesting and,
it's
and
super
cool.
cool.
questions,
But yeah,
pull up the questions.
pull up the questions. I do like. I think if there was a moment where I was like that was probably the most confusing though. It was when they first introduce like the actual device that you inverse in
The turnstile.
Yeah, the turnstile, because like that's literally like that moment where he's in the I think his room is like red and her room is like
red
blue.
and blue.
Yeah, and like that moment is the first moment you get any idea of like, oh, this is like how it actually works, and it's literally just like he finds out like, oh, like this is the machine that does it, and he does it right away. You know, usually like there would be build up like where he's all like, you know, like, should I do this? Should I not? No, he just gets in, and then you're introduced to this world of him working in the inverse, you know?
Yeah.
So, that was the, like, I don't think I didn't get really confused on, like, plot points at that part, but I definitely was like, okay, this is super new, and, like, it comes freaking out of, like, literally right after, like, a car chase that could have been the climax of the movie. You know, so you're already on like this.
It's part 2,
right? Exactly. You're on this adrenaline of like, and then he goes in, and then it's literally right back into it.
I do love it because I love it. He goes back, being like, I gotta go. I have to go get the algorithm part from myself.
Yeah.
You know, he knows what he has to do.
Yeah.
And so he's like, I don't have a choice. And I love that part when he goes. He's talking to like the main soldier guy, and he's all like, I gotta go out there, and he's like, nah, you don't want to do that. He's like, no, I have to. And he's all, Amy, brief him or whatever.
Yeah.
And then she goes over there, and she's all, okay, this is how it works, and he's all,
right. And the way that he convinces him is by telling him like, you go through this turnstile, we start moving backwards. Sater owns this turnstile, right? And then he's like, do you got a turnstile 2 weeks ago?
Yeah,
I'm like, yeah, we
actually
do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it is really cool. I do love her explanation. It reminded me of like a video game. Like where like you show up and you have no clue what's happening, and they're just like, this is how it works.
Press
Go get
square.
him. Yeah, go get him.
Yeah.
And he goes outside, and that part, I think that's one part that I don't quite understand is like when he's first learning to drive the car.
Yeah.
Like what is reversed in his mind and what is actually, well, what is like fine in his mind. Like the steering is fine, but but like she talks about like the friction of the car.
Yeah.
Is like there's a
I think that's the
specific
main
part
thing.
when he like goes from like stopped and then his tires like just unlock and then he's just going forward.
Yeah.
And you're just like,
right.
what is
yeah,
happening?
it's hard to follow, and I think that a lot of that is that the explanation is it's essentially you have to think about it from the car's perspective, right? That it's moving in the opposite direction that he is. So it's being driven backwards. You ever when you drive a car backwards fast, it gets fucky, right? And it gets weird. And so he has to do that, but it's going forward, right? So he's just experiencing all those movements, and it's in the same way that like when your arms do this when you're going backwards, when you're turning, it's not going to be hard at first and then get easier as you go. It's going to be the opposite. It's going to be easy at first and then or however
the other way.
it is. Yeah. But yeah. And one thing is,
it's great.
I realize these questions are kind of butt. Some of them are kind of good. But one thing that I think is just kind of funny that I did think about is like when the protagonist goes back and he's in the black suit and he goes to the Oslo Freeport and he fights with himself.
Yeah.
He fucking tries to shoot himself while he's going.
Yeah,
and it's like, bro, you're really, and like I get it. It's like an intense situation and he's trying to, but it just is so funny that it's like he literally tried to fucking shoot himself.
This is where it goes though. It's a thing of he sees the bullets in the window. Mm-hmm. And if the bullets are in the window, then he didn't have a choice to shoot or not.
Right. And that, well, the thing is like,
I think it goes into a thing of like training.
That's another, another question of like, what's always going to happen is going to happen, right? And so like,
because
like his free will plugged into that, but you also, you know, it just is, because he still did make the choice, although, you know, free will doesn't work exactly the same way in this because it's causality. Causality moved him to, he was, in that moment, he was consciously, whether causality or not, choosing to fucking pull this trigger.
Of course.
And it was just, he needed to fucking get the fuck up out of there.
I think it is.
And I think part of it is that he might not have necessarily even been trying to shoot himself. He was just trying to shoot to get his fucking ear worked up.
Yeah, or even the idea of like this is the first time he's ever done anything like that.
Yeah,
and
so he's all
freaked out, and he has a gun, so he's like, I don't know.
Yeah, it might be a thing of like that is what he's trained to do.
Right, exactly.
He's trying to kill people.
So, but what's a question?
There's some pretty basic questions.
Ask us the basic.
Like, why do they have to breathe through a mask?
Because the air don't work in their reverse lungs.
Yeah, the reverse little thingies in there, they don't work with the regular air.
For some reason.
And then a question: what do the green gloves do at the beginning? They basically they protect because at the beginning they were worried that it was radiation infected, and it is. But it apparently doesn't infect you when you go through it or whatever, but it radiates objects, and that's the idea. It
radiates objects.
Yeah, that's the thing. It irradiates objects, and
but
that's
why... But it
why...
also doesn't kind of make sense because, like,
that's not how radiation works.
And, like,
and they wear it, so
they got stuff.
That's
not
how
that's...
regular radiation, but inverse radiation?
Yeah,
that's how it works.
But yeah, and that's why they need to take the lady back through the turnstile because he shoots her with an inverted bullet, and by doing that, it's irradiated. The bullet is. So the reason that she's gonna die is not because she's been shot and she's bleeding out. It's because of the radiation of the bullet in tandem with those things. Her, So they need to go through the turnstile in order to undo it.
Yeah.
Let's see. During the first Oslo Freeport mission, why are there two guys coming out of the turnstile? Let's just take a minute and map out this.
Let's just talk about how that works.
Yeah.
Is like,
right?
Because that definitely confused me at first. Because if you're going from either perspective, you see yourself going into the
or coming out if you're
coming. And I think the easiest way to understand it was like if you are on a timeline. And, like, there's a point where you enter into the turnstile. And that point is, like, a point. That's your fixed point. And what's happening is you're both converging on this point. And when you get close, you're both moving towards it. You're both getting close to it, you know?
Yeah.
It's not like one person is going away from it and one person is going towards it. Like, you're both going to it equally.
Yeah.
So you're going to see yourself as you get in.
Right.
Because when you are in, you get that point. And then when you go out, you're moving away at the same distance.
I think the way to think about it is like think about one timeline. Each time you move back, you go up and you start going reverse on a layer on top. So imagine it like this is one tunnel, the turnstile is here, and this is another tunnel, right? As you go in here, there's one play bar going forward. And then from your experience, as this play bar goes forward, you go in here and then you're coming back out.
Yeah.
So you're going to see both versions of yourself going forward.
Exactly.
If you're watching not from your perspective in the turnstile, you're going to keep going as their play bar goes backwards. So they're just going to disappear.
Yeah.
Right? But and so that's how that works. Because the things that I think that kind of confused me because sometimes they would go in it and then there'd be two of them, and sometimes two would go in it and then there'd be nobody, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? But I think that's, and specifically in the Oslo Freeport. So the first time that we see it, all we see is that the protagonist, he's investigating this place, and then a dude jumps out. And he's reversed. The dude who jumps out is reversed.
He sees someone jump out in reverse, and then he sees someone jump
and that is the same guy. That's him. We'll get to that. Yeah. But that is the same guy in that moment as we know it. He's coming out, and that one dude fucks with
Robert Pattinson.
Neil. Yeah, Robert Pattinson. And he's getting fucked with by himself. Yeah, and so then he's going forward, and then so when we get to it the second time, that's when they're currently moving back in time. The other version of himself, he's experiencing things. He's coming to this turnstile right now, as the other one is leaving the turnstile, right? Yeah. And so they're both coming to this turnstile. So what we see is we see him fighting himself from the perspective of the armored him, and then he sees himself in the other side moving in reverse, pushing past Neil, getting back into the teleporter, and then it goes in reverse again, where it's from his perspective. He's coming out of the not the teleporter, the turnstile, and he pushes past Neil.
Yeah, and the whole idea is like, from your perspective, things are gonna look like they're going in reverse when you're in reverse, or if you know what I mean. Yeah. So if you're going in reverse, you still feel fine. Max touched on this. You're still going forward. Things feel funky, but so it's like the moment that they enter the machine, I keep forgetting the turnstile. The turnstile. Like, it's because in that moment then you're able to see yourself exit because it all exists in this one area.
Yeah. Let's just like real quick overall map out the protagonist's line through
Just his.
I mean, then we can go to Neil, I think, which is the other significant one. But so
he's everywhere all the time.
Yeah. Protagonist is going forward from the beginning. It starts off at the opera house. The opera house is like the center point. And it's the beginning, but it's the center point.
Do we need paper?
We've already lost you.
Oh, we don't need
it will just be.
Dude,
we'll
people
be
are
smart.
gonna be so
We'll
confused.
big-
Unless they
watched it and they. But so he goes until when is the first time he goes through Turnstile? Oh, the first time is when he's saving Kat, right?
Yeah.
So he's experiencing all this shit. This is after he goes to Freeport and crashes the plane. This is after
the car
after the
chase.
opera. This is after the car chase. This is immediately following the car chase, right?
Yeah.
And so and what's interesting in this car chase that I also didn't get the first time is that that the satyr that has Kat hostage is moving in reverse, right? And you see that the second time when he counts up, right? As he's going, you're like, oh shit, I understand. He's showing to him that he's counting down.
Yeah.
Fucking big brain, dude.
Yeah.
And so but then so he goes through the turnstile to go back so that they can save Kat. Their ultimate goal being that they need to save Kat by reversing her and then going back to the Oslo Freeport. But then he also says, I'm gonna get the thing because I lost it to him.
Yeah.
I lost it to him. I lost the algorithm to him. And then when he gets there, he realizes, like, as it's happening, like, oh, this is what happened. I gave it right to him, right? I directly gave it to him.
The idea is that he's trying to dupe Satyr by throwing himself the algorithm and throwing the orange box to Satyr.
Yeah.
But what happens is when he throws the algorithm to himself, Satyr sees.
Yeah.
And the whole idea is it was safe because John David Washington was the only one who knew where it was in time. Yeah. And so nobody else could find it.
Yeah.
But
unless they went and searched ruthlessly through everything.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is impossible. But because Satyr saw him, he now has complete control. He can
to
get
go
it
back
whenever
and get
he
it again.
needs.
yeah, and it's like it's like when the army people are talking about it, how like they have like two groups so that they always know what the other what the other people are going to do.
Yeah.
It's like Satyr is operating in that same
He's
system.
doing it.
his
It's what's it
knowledge,
called?
a pincer
A
maneuver.
temporal pincer.
Yeah.
That's so sick. I love the way that
it
they
is really
describe
cool,
that. Yeah.
and especially we'll talk about that when that comes up. But
continuing,
he
his
goes
plotline.
he goes backwards. He loses the algorithm, and
The
now
piece of the algorithm.
they're going backwards to the
Oslo Freeport
the
turnstile.
Oslo Freeport,
which is
also
where the paintings are. That's the Oslo Freeport.
Yeah, which is also where
the plane crash. Yeah.
they crash the plane.
Yes.
So when they get there, they go inside. He reverses himself.
Yes, and this is where the fight happens with him. He gets
fights
blown
himself.
in by the fucking
He
thing.
reverses himself, so now he's going forward.
Yes.
He goes forward in time. Robert Pattinson or Neil and Kat go also.
They're still in
themselves.
reverse at the point when he starts to come back out again, right? So he comes back out and he gives them the all clear, right? And so then they can go in after the past versions of themselves have already reverted, right?
Yeah.
And then they come back out, and that's where they're all in the thing, and so now they're moving back forward.
They're moving forward, and so they kind of regroup, and they're all good.
Yes.
And then they meet.
And this is where shit starts popping off.
Yeah, they
this is
meet
where it
up
lost me.
with the army people, and they are talking about like, what do we do? Because he talks to the protagonist, his like guru through this whole thing is what's her name, Priya.
Yes.
Is the lady from Mumbai who's pretty much explaining to him what is happening, what he needs to do.
Yeah. As he knows it. At this point, she is the boss. The boss of Tenet.
She's she's in charge of this whole thing. She understands everything that's happening. And so she says, I got one of these turnstiles. We got a whole thing going on. We got a whole deal of these soldiers who are doing all these things. And we got one of these turnstiles on this boat that we got. And he's like, they're all great. And so they decide we're going to go back in time, and we're gonna split up into groups, kind of 3 different groups. It's Kat and the guy from yesterday, on the boat, and her job is to go make sure that Sator doesn't kill himself on the boat.
Yeah.
And to clarify, where they've traveled back to at this point is the beginning of the film, where when
During
the
the
opera
opera.
happens.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes, this is canonically that point in time.
Yeah, and so they go back. Kat simultaneously to the opera. She's having a vacation with Sator and their child. And so her job is to go back in time, take her own place as she's not on the boat, and meet Sator, who's also from the future on the boat.
Yeah, just
and
to
make
distract
sure,
him and make
sure that he
Yes.
doesn't die.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because if
And
he
so-
kills himself, then it's game over.
This future Sator is also filling his own role because the past Sator, the
Is
Sator
at the
moving,
opera.
is going to the opera
yeah.
at that point.
Yeah,
And
so now
yeah.
there's a Sator at the opera and a Sator on the boat and a
Yes.
cat on the boat and a cat on shore with her son.
and
doing
he
things.
thinks that the cat on shore is the cat on the boat, but the cat on the boat is the future cat filling her place.
Yeah, and so they're both duping each other.
At this
But
point,
one is the wiser.
One is the wiser. And so the other group is the group of Tenet soldier people where the protagonist and the cool army guy, their job, they're in the red group, and the red group is going to go backwards in time and then go
Great.
so they're gonna go. The red group is gonna go back before the opera,
Yes.
and their job is to go to where Sator is going to bury this
Yes.
algorithm.
And they're moving forward. Red group is moving forward.
Red group is moving forward, so they go backwards before the opera /
Yes.
boat scene / blowing up of this algorithm to bury forever, and they're going to move forward and
Yes.
attack them from forward in time.
Yes.
The blue group is going to start after everything happens and move backwards in time so that they are both moving together to the same point,
Yeah.
and then past each other pretty much.
And the cool part about that is that like as they explain it, Blue has already been through the battle, right?
Yeah.
They've already been through the battle, so they're going to go back and then they're going to do a little briefing, right? They're going to record a voice of themselves, then they're going to play it back for the other people saying like,
This is what
here's
happened.
what happens, right? Even though it's like it's already happened and technically, but again, this is a system where everything that's going to happen is always going to happen,
it's set
but
in
that's
stone.
not an excuse not to communicate and to let
Exactly.
your instinct do things because because it just has to happen, right?
Yeah,
You
it
have to
has to.
allow yourself to be a part of that,
Yeah,
no
and
matter
not
what
even-
it's going
not
to be.
even. I don't even think it's a matter of like allow yourself. I think it is just like, no matter what, that's how it works.
Yeah.
You don't have a.
You have
choice in
no
the matter.
choice. You have no choice in
Right.
the matter. Yeah.
Because
yeah.
like the only choice you have is like those instinctual like what you actually do,
Yeah.
and it's like no matter what you do is that's
going to
it,
be
right.
You know,
Yeah,
and it's
and-
like,
yeah.
and that's like a big theme for me in this movie is just because your choices have.
Let's probably stop.
We'll check really fast.
just because
Keep talking.
I'll remember. Oh,
It did
so
stop.
just because your choices and your actions have a consequence, and just because that consequence is set in stone, doesn't mean it's like any less your choice. You know,
course. Yeah.
you know, and like
Yeah.
and like this idea of like, well, but what if I could go back? Well, in real life, even like without like time travel, you don't get the choice to go back.
Yeah.
That doesn't make it
I
any
mean,
less a different choice.
I
you know?
think that Neil explains it best in that the protagonist asks him like, well, what if I went back and killed my grandpa? Wouldn't I not be there? And he's like, it's the grandfather paradox. And he's like, well, what's the answer? He says, there is no answer. It's a
Yeah.
paradox because that just it can't happen, or else it
Right.
tears apart the space-time continuum.
Yeah,
in which
exactly.
case, this universe would never exist. And that's why he says, well, doesn't us being here now mean that everything works out? And he's like,
Yeah.
but we
Hopefully.
we are
But
still
we don't know what happens.
we don't know if it's we don't know. We're not an expert on this time shit. You
Right.
know, in
Of course.
theory,
Nobody knows.
the
Yeah, and
optimistic, but the pessimistic approach is that as soon as we get there, that's when the time continuum altogether stops. It's gonna loop a little bit, and then everything gets fucked, and that's where
like,
everything
and
stops.
the idea of
forever.
like, yeah, they really never know, and it's like, yeah, like you could try to do that, but it's risking like just deciding not to know or risking like destroying all of humanity, all of creation. Like,
and I
ever.
think that's why he says like the policy is suppression, because it's gonna kind of drive you mad if you overthink that and you think like, shit, like I don't have free will, I'm just doing what the universe tells me to do. You know, this is fucking this causality shit, right? And that is, I think, a big thing that helped me think about it is if you're familiar with the idea of causality. And the idea of causality is that nothing just happens. There's no such thing as free will from the perspective that is like everything happens as a result of the last thing happening. You know, Max Brabson explained to me this with like a good representation. What he did is he threw a fork in the table and it stuck in a certain spot, right? And he said, like, if I reverse time right now, everything is exactly the same. All the air particles, all my thought process, all of it, and then I hit play again. Would it hit another place in the table because I randomly tossed it? No. It would hit the exact same place because all of the motions are exactly the same. Nothing changed, right? Yeah. And so that is the idea of causality. And so it means that even in your thought process, something made the chemical reaction happen in your brain to make this choice, to make this whatever happen. You are none the wiser. It's almost as if we are even whim to our own brain's thoughts. Our own brain is doing whatever.
We are kind of ignorant too.
Because,
if we understood exactly how we were feeling things all the time, then we wouldn't really like count them as feelings.
Again, it's a paradox. You can't know that, right? It doesn't work that way. You're going to always just
you can understand it. You can understand like, oh, my brain works in this way where it's just a bunch of lights floating around.
Yeah, but again, even that thought
it doesn't affect you.
Yeah,
like,
everything
it doesn't affect how you are.
Yeah, because every choice you make is always going to happen exactly the way that it is. Even in our timeline, I think that's the big idea. Is like we just haven't seen it yet. We've not seen it yet, but what's going to happen in the future is always going to happen. Yeah. We have control over it from the perspective that is we don't know what's going to happen, and we don't know, and we're going to see it eventually. But everything is, and so coming back
anyways, we're at the battle at the end.
Yeah.
They are going to fight simultaneously. Mm-hmm. The red team going forward for 10 minutes, and then the blue team going backwards for 10 minutes. They're going to meet in the middle, and then as they leave, I really liked it because it was a thing of the red team was coming out to go fight some fools as the blue team is retreating.
Yeah.
And so the red team can cover the blue team as they escape. And it's the same thing. When the red team gets to the end and they're all bloodied up and nastied, the blue team comes out from the future going backwards and they can cover the red team as they leave. Yeah. And so it's a perfect, like, not only are the blue team able to fight against people who are moving backwards as well, because I think that's the big reason, is not only is like a tactical reason, but it's very difficult to fight people who are moving backwards compared to you.
Yeah.
You know, and so they could be like, imagine if
they're
everyone
covering all
fought
bases
together like John David Washington fights himself.
Right.
They're all just flying around shooting, you know, they're all like, what's happening? Yeah. So but it's really cool. So they go in, and then John David Washington and the soldier boy, their job is to go rescue the algorithm from getting tossed into this hole and blown up forever.
Yes.
And that's when all
forever.
The Neil
until
stuff
future can dig it up.
From the future. Yeah. But Neil comes in, and pretty much his thing is that he is there whenever he's there, and he's everywhere, and that's kind of his deal. Is his job is he is the person who is constantly going back and forth and making everything happen. Right. You know.
So again, from John David Washington's point of view, what is occurring is he's going and he's forward. Eventually going to arrive in this chasm where the Russian dude is trying to bury the algorithm altogether in this canister and then blow it up so that the people in the future can dig it up and have that, right? And so John David Washington, he's waiting, and this is why. So Kat needs to kill the other version of Sator after they've saved the algorithm.
Well, she doesn't have to. She wants to.
Right, she wants to, but also he's a fucking, you know, he's a terrorist. He's the fucking so he should die. But yeah, anyway, she does want to kill him, and so she needs to wait to kill him, right? And so John David Washington, he's fucking, and there's this dude on the ground, right, that's dead, and we don't really, we see that he's got the little keychain on his back, but we are none the wiser. We don't know what the fuck's going on, right? So John David Washington is talking to this dude, because he's also on the boat with his wife, and so then what ends up happening is John David Washington is about to get shot when the dude that's on the ground, turns out he was in reverse, and he gets up, and he saves John David Washington. So we understand that from his perspective, he ran in as all this is happening in reverse to take that bullet, just as John David Washington.
And this is where things go like
bonkers.
If you haven't seen it, you're not gonna be able to understand.
Yeah.
Like no doubt, like there's just no way because there's.
But you shouldn't be watching this if you haven't seen it.
If you haven't seen
because
it,
we put
y'all are special.
And like if you haven't seen it, we probably haven't spoiled anything just because you don't know what the fuck we're talking about.
And we're kind of
so
jumping
even if you feel spoiled,
like,
go watch it anyways. You'll
It's
still
amazing.
We just called the guy the protagonist.
But yeah,
the
so
whole time.
then what ends up happening is we then start to see it from Neil's perspective, right? And Neil is part of the blue team going in reverse, right? And so Neil going in reverse, he sees that the Russian dude, he puts a bomb at the entrance of the cave so that when John David Washington and the other dude go in, they're gonna blow it up, either killing them or just closing it behind them. What ends up happening is it closes it behind them, right? So he sees the dude setting it up, right? So he's like, oh shit, I need to go through the turnstile that is underground and save them, right?
Yeah.
And so he
flip-flops.
Yeah, he flops. So he's now moving forward, right?
To save his friends, he doesn't save his friends.
Yes, he doesn't save them. We see retroactively that he's the one honking the horn at him. He's the one that John David Washington was shooting at earlier, right? And so
he has to go back.
Yes.
Go back. Mm-hmm. So that he can go back and unlock the door / take the bullet for John David Washington.
Yes.
When you see, from John David Washington's perspective, the guy laying on the ground, and you understand that that's Neil who dies, and that's pretty much his final resting point.
Yes, but Neil, before he does that, what's important is that Neil, before any of that actually happens, Neil, what he does is to save the day, he tosses a rope down the hole where the
this mountain, this chasm,
where the
hole,
where the algorithm and John David Washington and the other dude are, so that they can grab on and he can drive out, which is so cool because you see that at the beginning of the scene. Yeah. You see that. You see the ending of the scene at the very beginning of it, and you're none the wiser. You don't know that that's the fucking
look.
Yeah, and it's so cool. And then he pulls him out just as it's blowing up. Yeah, and that's where he gives John David Washington the talk of like, hey buddy, this is just a fucking beginning, dog. The beginning
they
for you.
They have a huge philosophical talk about.
Yeah. And it's so cool.
It's so cool.
And like I think the third time was where that got me the most emotional, because that's where John David Washington, like, he's really breaking down in that moment. He's like, fuck, dude, I've been lied to. Like that's the thing, is like, that's where you really begin to see like this shit is starting to fuck with John David Washington. He's like, fuck, dude, this is complicated. This is so much bigger than even this, and this is the biggest thing I've ever fucking seen, right? And so that's when Neil is like, listen, buddy, like, you're gonna fucking recruit me, dog. And so then from Neil's point of view, what is happening is he's now going to the opera house. When he gets on that copter, what's happening is he's going to the opera house to save him at the beginning by shooting that inverted bullet.
Yeah, and you know that by the keychain.
Yes, by the keychain, because you see that at the beginning,
the common
right?
thread line.
And then he goes back again to unlock the door and die
and take the bullet
for John David Washington, right?
Yep.
And so then from John David Washington's perspective, we now see him keep going forward to where and it's I think there's more that happens behind the scenes like behind what we see.
He starts to live out the life that he should live when he goes back.
But specifically, what we see on screen is that that he tells Kat, I think it was earlier
on the boat,
tell me for posterity, fucking, or like he says like, if you see some shit going down, call me, right? And he says, what do I call you, posterity, or some shit, right? And then what happens is we see her call, right? But then we see John David Washington is already in the car, and he has the thing out. So we know that he saw that, and he did his own kind of pincer movement where he goes, and then he comes back, and so then that's where we see that Priya and some other fucking hitman dude are about to kill Kat
To clean up loose ends.
Yes, to clean up loose ends.
She knows what is going on.
Yes.
And she understands
thinks she knows what's going on. Yeah, but what
she does know what's going on.
Not exactly.
Kat, are you talking about Kat or the lady?
No. Priya.
Yeah, Kat understands what the thing is. That's why they're killing her.
Yes.
But he is also killing Priya for the
right.
same reasons.
I understand what you're saying. I misunderstood. But yeah, so the thing is, Priya thinks that she's...
Cat, so.
Yep. Priya thinks she's the fucking head of this organization and she's covering up all the loose ends and whatever, right? But then John David Washington gets in the car and he reveals to her, like, I am the protagonist. I am the one who even fucking recruited you to be a part of this plotline, and I recruited myself, and I still got a ways to go. You know, this isn't even, I'm not even this one. There's a fucking another one of me.
Yeah.
And so that's sort of the big sort of, that is the conclusion. That is the conclusion to his plotline, and that Kat is filling the position of the older Kat who is now living out the events of the other situation.
The story we've seen.
Yes. Yeah. And so yeah, and that's where so yeah, those are the main ones. The main ones to keep track of are protagonist and Neil, right? Yeah. And we've covered that. And yeah, there's a theory which I personally have come to think is kind of stupid, but it's kind of cool and it kind of makes sense that Max Kat's son is Neil as a child, and that he recruits Max to be part of the Tenet organization.
Yeah.
But the thing is, because of the amount of time, someone did the math right, Neil would have to be moving in reverse for 10 total years of his life, and then be moving forward again 10 total years of his life, which is like, how logistically would he ever be doing that? And what is years, like unless there's some crazy shit going on that's like even bigger, which is
kind of like
very possible,
which is why,
very possible,
which kind of services to why I think I'm on the opposite side of Max, where for me the idea of Max and Neil being the same person kind of strengthens the story for me a little bit. And the nice thing is, it really is up to the
I think that's less of a spinning top, oh, it's kind of for you to fill in the details moment, and more of like the revelation is that there is another version of Neil at this time who has no fucking clue what's going on.
Right.
It could be that kid. It could be some other fucking dude on the street, right? And so I think that it's more the idea that is like, it's kind of a head fanfic to fill in those details, but the significant part of it is knowing like, oh, it could be anything, which is the same with Inception, really.
Yeah, and there's some dumb, like, some points that I'm like, okay, that's a little dumb. Like, one was like, if Max's full name was Maximilian, it would be Neil, and I'm like, that's a bit of a stretch.
Yeah, but it's like, it's also like, that's not really the normal way to spell Maximilian.
Exactly. Yeah, and I'm like, okay, that's a bit of a stretch. But there are things like narratively, I like the idea of these two characters. Like, the whole thing is like, his first mission was to save this kid, you know?
Yeah.
Which, like, essentially to save this kid, that's a kind of an important part. And then Neil, who could be Max, his last mission was to save the protagonist. I personally, that's just what I like.
The only difference, I think, is that what can you assume happens? Because obviously, the protagonist has, like, romantic feelings for Kat.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like his thing. Is because he does. Like, I think it's
meant to be like a James Bond kind of thing, where it's like he does have feelings for her, but he's too badass to kind of really show it until she's fucking dying, right? And that's why it's never like as clear as like, I'm fucking in love with you. I'm gonna save you.
I think that is true,
and I think that's smart that they didn't make it so ham-fisted.
What happens like after? Like, I think this is the thing. If Max is her, or if Max is Neil, then John David Washington, I would assume, would be more of like a father character to him. If he is constantly,
which he still could be
if he's around, and if he is around, like, then that's going to be his father figure. But I think that's okay. Like, and watching it and thinking about like Neil and his dad. Really, just going around and doing adventures.
It's kind of cool.
I like but I also like them being friends.
But also think about it from the perspective that is like kind of the whole goal of everything going on is that he's trying to save Kat so that she can live her life. Exactly. That is the ultimate goal. And like even even Neil is like, you gonna go fucking see her, and he's like, no. Even from afar, and he's like, no, I'm not gonna. I can't.
Maybe,
it's gonna fuck with me.
Yeah.
Unless she calls.
yeah.
Unless she calls.
Yeah,
But
and-
here's the thing: like, if he just immediately goes and decides, no, actually, I'm gonna recruit Neil for the Tenet organization,
Then it
he's
kinda
gonna have
goes
to.
to-
It goes
that's
completely
true.
against
Yeah,
the goal of
which-
the story because
that-
he's just gonna pull the child away from her, and
Right. And
Maybe
like
she
I said, it
dies
can really go
a
either
terrible
way.
death.
I also
She
like
could.
one thing that got pointed out was like the effect like whatever language the satyr speaks. You know, there's the part where they're
Russian?
I'm pretty sure it's
it's-
Russian.
Oh, no,
no, it's
it's-
not. It's like something with an A. It starts with an A.
Is it Armenian?
No.
Are you sure it's not Russian?
I'm
No,
positive.
he's all like, it's
It's
David.
Davis.
What's your password? Everyone. Oh. Never mind. Davis is calling us.
He tried. We'll see if he fucking comes
Hello?
back or whatever. Davin?
Davis. Alright, don't tell him we're on the podcast.
Mm.
Hey, Davis.
Hey, man.
It's Truman
Hey,
and
what's
Max.
What's up?
Okay. Oh, you guys are filming the podcast, aren't you? Shit.
That's so funny.
Maybe.
Literally just before. Oh, it fucking is lagging. He can't hear us anymore.
We love you, Davis. I love you. I love you. I'm leaving you.
Great.
All right. Well, a little guest surprise from Davis, just for a
Yep.
couple seconds.
So, anyways, he's whatever that language is. I can look it up. I'm positive.
I
but,
can't even think
I'll
of
look
any
it up.
other
Keep talking.
languages.
But there's this part in the car where
I'm gonna find it.
the protagonist is
I'll
like,
find it
"Don't
first.
you speak that language?" And he's like, "That's not that language." And like
That's backwards. That's what he said.
yeah,
I'm gonna just
What
look up
is-
Russian, like you Polish,
no,
Bulgarian.
none of those are it. Let me look it up.
You just keep talking, you weirdo.
Well, I'm kind of
Whoa.
I want to remember.
Keep
what
talking.
Let me. Okay, I can't think now. Wait.
I'm pretty sure he just speaks
No,
Russian, dude.
I
No,
when?
I'm
When does he not speak
Is
Russian?
it-
The whole time he speaks a different language?
no.
What are you talking
It's
about?
not. He speaks like it's a different language. It is a different
is.
language.
What do you... When?
He says when he says, "I thought you spoke."
Yeah.
No, he says it's backwards. You're talking about the scene where he's
Yeah.
listening to the radio and he says,
No,
"You fucking
no,
idiots,
this
listen."
kid.
He's in the car and he's saying like, "I can't understand what he's saying." And he's like, "Don't you speak
find it.
Russian?" No, it's
He doesn't
backwards.
say Russian.
He's whatever. It doesn't fucking
That's what we're
matter.
trying to figure out.
What is it? What does he say?
We don't know.
Jesus Christ.
Language.
Greek,
Nope. Does
English?
satyr
German,
speak?
German,
No.
Ukrainian, Yugoslavian, Russian, Bulgarian,
What
Belarusian,
nationality is
Bulgaria,
satyr?
Slavic.
Why are
He's
you...
just freaking out.
Oh my
saying
god.
me.
Jesus Christ. It's Russian. I'm pretty fucking positive it's Russian.
not Russian,
He
man.
doesn't say Russian.
He's a Russian oligarch, bro. What the fuck else would he,
He
speak?
doesn't say Russian.
Okay,
I'm
okay, fine, then
100%
figure it the fuck
sure.
out, you
That's
moron.
what we're doing.
No, you're not. Oh my god.
Car chase
That's
Oh,
not
I'll
gonna.
just look up the
scene. Preview.
preview.
Nope.
That's not what we want. All right, well, we'll figure it out later.
Not.
Why does it matter? Why does it matter?
don't
What is the
know.
significance?
Because
trying to think
my
of it.
significance was that he so the idea I watched like a theory video of like the reason like Max and Neil could be connected is like that he specifically knows that language, which could just be like he's like this guy who works for this organization and he knows a lot of languages.
He is Satyr's son.
Yeah,
So-
they know this same
Yeah.
language that would like
Great.
specific. But anyways,
Yeah.
but in another point, kind of about Neil and Max being the same. I also like there's the part where he's like, "Would you kill a kid?" And he's like,
Maybe.
"Yeah." Or he's like,
he straight
"Would
up
you kill?"
says, like,
yeah.
maybe.
Well, no, he says no to the kid, and
He's
he's
all,
like,
no. He's all,
Would
no.
would you kill? Well, then he's like, no, because he goes, would you kill a kid? No. And he's like, would you kill a woman? He's like, no. Maybe. Yeah. And so like kind of that idea of like he's
Alabama.
I don't know.
Is it Alabama?
Yeah, I'm.
Is it Alabama?
That's negative.
You should find the video.
There's so many languages.
You should find the
I'll
video
look for it.
But
Hungarian.
yeah, what was I gonna?
I don't know.
These fucking
I'm
kids.
telling.
Yeah, great. Find
It's
it. Figure it out.
something. Karelian. Kashubian.
Brilliant. That sounds like
Ket. That's
Star Wars.
cool.
It is Star Wars.
Kimchi.
Oh,
Karelian
Karelian.
space. Yeah.
Like Karelia.
Um. But yeah.
Latvian.
Um.
Yugoslavian. Lubakasi. Luri. I don't know any more languages.
Tenet is good.
Tenet is great.
It's a good movie.
Is great.
Tenet is 10 out of 10.
Tenet.
Tenet out of Tenet. Mandarin?
Tenet is
Miami.
Would you
Illinois.
just find
10
the
out of
video?
10 in back. Wait.
I'm looking at
Yeah. 10
out
10
of
out of 10.
10 out of net. 10 out of net.
Nope. It
10
would be
out
no.
Wait,
Backwards, it would be
10
10 faux
Tau.
10
10
faux
zero.
tau net.
Net.
10 phone now. No. Net phone. Net faux tau.
10.
10.
Wait.
No.
No, wait.
No, yeah, it would be net both times. Yeah.
No.
Net faux
10.
tau.
No,
net.
if we're going, okay, are we
Net
going
phone now
backwards
tet.
the whole thing?
Yeah, the whole thing backwards.
So it would start with 10. If we're going 10 net. Wait, what?
I'm saying the phrase 10 out of 10 backwards
Oh,
is
I'm
net
saying the
faux-
phrase. I don't know what I'm saying anymore.
Yeah, you don't know what you're fucking saying. Find the video.
oh,
Find
yeah,
the video
yeah.
that you watched so we can figure out what the dude said the language was he spoke.
I don't know if this is right. State Farm.
Dude,
I'm gonna look it.
I don't think
that's
this is
not it.
it. No, maybe it actually is it.
That's not it.
It might be it.
What'd you
Did you
do?
watch the same video? I'm just
I've
checking.
watched
We're
this
at
video.
1 hour and 12 minutes. So we should wrap up soon. Figure this out. I'll cut all this bullshit out.
Is it Latvian?
Might be.
Add.
Bruh.
Yep. Yep.
Is it French?
Is it French? It's like Ukrainian or something. Lithuanian.
Okay, here we go.
We hear a radio signal that's pretty much undecipherable. The protagonist says, "I thought you spoke Estonian."
Estonian!
Estonian!
Great.
We're freaking geniuses!
Estonian! You ever been to
Alright.
Estonia?
Great.
Yeah, you
Now I'll
ever been to
cut
Estonia?
that fucking
No.
8 minutes out of the podcast out.
Estonia.
Estonia!
Estonia. Estonia.
Alright.
Great.
10.
So we figured out
Tenet.
they speak Estonian. Wait, one thing before we wrap up.
They speak
One
Estonian.
thing that I think is cool is the idea they talk about the Seder Square. Is,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
is
I
the
saw- yeah.
inspiration for like not just the character names but for the movie in general. The Seder Square is like an ancient Pompeii thing. I
That
think
no
it
one
is,
really
or like a Greek
knows.
thing that is like it says Tenet in the middle. Then I think it says Seder, and then
Opera.
yeah, it says opera, and and then it says it in reverse.
Yeah, and
so,
everyone's like
that is sort of that's
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 the
just like supposed to be sort of like a little, and that's why they talk about going to Pompeii. Kat does with Max, and I think that's just kind of a cool detail, and I think that Christopher Nolan I think might have talked about it somewhere, or it's like someone just thinks that is partially the inspiration for Christopher Nolan making this plot line is that square and the idea that that's an ancient thing and that like that might even relate to the plot line somehow in some fucking crazy connected way. But Tenet is a great movie. If you didn't understand it, our coherent ramblings didn't probably help you with anything.
Hopefully you enjoyed our.
It's Estonian though. Now you know.
long has
The
this been
biggest.
happening?
It's been
Yeah,
1
we
hour
just
and
did-
12 minutes.
Oh,
Yeah, I hope
So,
you enjoyed our strictly Tenet podcast.
Tenet, the podcast.
Tenet the podcast. Now it's actually going to be 2 hours and 20 minutes long because it's gonna move entirely in reverse now.
Yeah, and they're gonna have
You're gonna have
to.
to.
You have to.
Yep.
You have to download the video yourself and
Yep,
then
and
reverse it.
Yep.
Yep.
You gotta
So that you can
reverse
hear the same
yourself.
But we
podcast again.
reversed. We reversed
Hello?
ourselves.
Who is it?
It might be Davis. Nope.
Congratulations!
Fuck.
They said congratulations! That was an interception, dog.
Yeah. So go see Tenet if you haven't yet.
It's
if you
pretty
can,
good.
it's really good. It's
But
yeah.
it's good if you're
Not stupid.
yeah, and if you're willing
Yeah.
to go
If you're
in.
really
Yeah.
stupid, don't watch it.
No.
if you're willing to take the time to indecipher something, and if you're willing to feel kind of unfulfilled like the first time you watch it or whatever, and need to take the time to figure things out, it's going to be all the
Just-
more
yeah,
satisfactory.
Don't be
Yeah.
stinky and be like,
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, you very well we can at least have it for the finale.
Frick!
Or, yeah, but you at the very least you can fuck, I can't, you distracted me. You son of a bitch.
I gotta pee.
Go pee.
Alright,
We'll
go
wrap
pee.
up.
Bye.
Go watch Tenet. If you're not gonna dig into it, it might not be the movie for you. But if you want to dig into something and take the time to figure something out, it's super satisfying. It's a great movie. You should go watch it.
It's super fun.
And then
If you're
come
willing
back
to
and watch this podcast, and then you'll be in the
caught up-
conversation
yeah, and
with
you'll
us.
be all caught up on your Guy Excellent videos.
Yeah. And yeah, one point to make real quick is that Emerson actually didn't like it, and that's something we could talk about on the podcast in the future, which is interesting. And he says the reason that he didn't like it is because he does want a more traditional, straightforward plotline, like Inception, right? Like something that has more character-driven things. The thing is, this is not driven by characters, not very
driven
much.
by,
It has good characters, but it's driven by the fact that the world is ending and it's complicated as fuck.
and it's like driven by like its own thought provokingness. You know, like it's like you're really drawn in because you're trying to figure out this crazy puzzle, and
Yeah.
not because you're like, I care. Like you do care about some of the characters a lot, and especially by the end, is this weird thing where like Neil, we don't really see that much of him, but when that moment happens, you understand that there's history between those characters, and you're like. It hurts. At least there's history for Neil, and he
Yes.
like knows.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna
And
die.
it's a cool revelation. And again, like, even if you don't understand it, you're still going to feel the tension and the tensity of the scene if you only allow yourself to be okay with the fact that you don't get it. You will still gain enjoyment out of it, because I think that, real quick, Shannon talked about the fact that she saw it, right, and she really enjoyed it despite not getting it, but all of her new friends off in Arizona who don't really like it, or who aren't really film nerds, said they fucking hated it. They still paid attention, they still watched it, but they disliked it because the beginning lost them, right? The beginning lost them because they needed to be able to understand what was going on in order to enjoy it. So if you can accept the fact that you won't understand it and still be able to enjoy it and go back and retroactively fill in the gaps, go watch it. Yeah, fuck you.
Bye.
This is the Max and Aiden podcast
And
now. That's a wrap.
And that's
Just facts.
reality. Ow. Liar.